is so good to be with you. I heard there's a revival going down in Elevation Church. Anybody? Good grief. God can do the impossible. He often calls us to do the impractical. He's looking for faith. He's looking for us to trust him. He loves to stack the deck against himself and against us so there will be faith, so that the world will know, so that he will get all the glory. Of course he would do what he's doing. Of course 154 countries. Of course you're going to give away millions of dollars in outreach. Of course tens and thousands and thousands and thousands have been saved and will be saved in the coming days through a work of God. Here, God can do the impossible. And he often calls us to do the impractical. Here's what I've learned. I've learned the actual instruction is actually irrelevant. It's the source of the direction that's significant. We ask what? We should be asking who. What do you want me to do? What does the church need me to do? What are they saying to do? We should be saying who. If God wants me to do it, here am I, send me. If God wants me to do it, put me to work, coach. I'm ready. I'll just go for it. I assume that it's not gonna make sense to me. I'm assuming I don't have all the input, all the data. I'm gonna trust my leaders. I'm gonna trust the Lord. I've been faithful. I don't really care what he wants me to do. I care about who's calling the shots. And that's how I've usually preached this text. Then I saw something I hadn't seen before. You see, I'm not satisfied with what I read in so many commentaries. Why did the water get poured out? So that it would be impossible. Here's what's interesting. The water had nothing to do with Elijah. It was everything about the people. Because remember the context, 3-year-long drought. The water wasn't just to heighten the difficulty, because it wasn't just a barrier. The water was a precious commodity. What changed my life was when I was looking at this text and I asked the question to it. I said, and some of the best things come out of asking questions to God. And I said, I just was reading it literally, and I said out loud, where'd the water come from? Where'd the stinking water come from? And the only person I heard was someone said, oh, they went all the way down the mountain, went all the way out to the Mediterranean Sea and got water from the ocean and came back. But don't forget, this had been going on all day, and Elijah just started at night, and all of a sudden they were ready with this water. So where did the water come from? The only likely explanation is that the people who had come from all the different tribes had brought the water with them as their own personal drinking water. The difference between life and death, and the connection to God's blessing. And it was perhaps all they had left. So Elijah said, we're gonna get some water. We're gonna get water from God. Rain's coming, I'm just daring you to believe it. But first, I'm gonna need you to fill up 4 water pots with water. And they were like, we don't have any water. He's like, okay, we'll just wait all day then. So eventually it's like, oh, I have one. So they start pouring it out. And this is something they could do, but only if they all work together. And once, twice, 3 times, all 12 water pots are dumped out. And then and only then was God able to then give them the rain he wanted to give them. What's the point? Check it. It's giving, not keeping, that leads to receiving. Counterintuitive, but true. Had they hung on to their water, which was all they had, that is all they would have had. But as they took a step of faith to dump out before the Lord what they had, then and only then could God open up the windows of heaven and pour on them a blessing that they wouldn't even have room enough to receive it, a dark and heavy rain. Why? Because they poured out what they had. When we keep what we have, that is all we have. But when we pour it out, then God can do what he always wants to do. He can multiply it. He can do some the times can kick in. And get this, I love it so much because when I was a kid, I learned about the times tables. 2 times 2 is 4 and 2 times 4 is 8. I'm not gonna go very long because I'm gonna run out of things that I actually could do on the spot. But here's the thing I love. They call that the times table. And God says, I want you to come to the times so there can be food on the table, so there can be food in my house, the living bread of life for the people of this world. We gotta get with the times so he can have food on the table, so people coming in would have something to eat and then come to know that he is God. We just have to bring what's in our hands to his hands. I know what some of you are thinking. I see what you're getting at. You're saying we should give of what God's given to us to do the work of the ministry on the earth, but you just don't understand. I can't afford to. Right now, if I add up my bills and I have the money I have, I can't afford to. And I would say to you, then you've successfully proven you can't do it without God's help. So what do you have to lose? What you have everything to gain. Let me tell you something. I'd rather have 90% of my resource and God's power and blessing on my life than have 100% of it and be all on my own with the rain clouds withheld and me holding on to one canteen when I could be having a whole cistern. What I'm really trying to say is this: don't pray for what you won't pay for. Are you gonna come in here for 10 nights and pray for God to move in power through you and then not do what God said we gotta do in order to see his rain fall on our lives? Oh, now you're quiet. Don't you dare pray all 10 nights for the rain of heaven to open up on your life, but then not bring the tithe to his house